The hunting horn, a unique weapon in the space of gaming, able to dish out supportive boons yet participate in the mulling of the toughest of monsters. It's been in the series since Freedom Unite, a weapon I've used every now and then. The game I used it the most in was actually GU, a game after my own heart. But in that game, although super fun to play, when it comes to the latter portions of the game, there's a problem when it comes to the hunting horn. A secret nerf that I don't see people talking about, and something that's been on my mind since 2018. In fact, technically it isn't restricted to Monster Hunter GU, and applies to other recent games in the series for different reasons. So today, let's tackle the mystery of the hunting horn nerf. Now, the supportive capabilities are something we all know about the hunting horn. Attack boost, defense boost, and even things such as wind resistance and earplugs. And on top of that, even healing. No longer do we have to rely on the cute mage in wizard robes to support us. Now, we have the manliest of men tooting their horn to keep us powerful. This unique weapon literally grants the party either a whole new skill or extends their current state to the next level. What I mean by that is you can turn your earplug small into large and so on. The song aspect of the weapon is something everyone knows and loves. It's been a pillar of the weapon since its inception. Although when it comes to damage, it has its own trials and tribulations. It's not easy fighting as you're playing your songs. It's even harder to position yourself correctly to hit the monster while tooting your beats. A skill hunting horn mains have had to master over the years. But this isn't the only thing that hunting horn mains had to master. As a blunt weapon, it has the property to do stun damage to the head. Stun damage works similar to other statuses. Monsters have a threshold. Each application of the damage will build up to that threshold. Once the threshold has been reached, the status will come in effect. But stun damage has another property that people don't really talk about much these days: exhaust damage. Exhaust damage is caused by a blunt weapon when it hits a monster's body part that isn't the head. But not that head, the other one. So hitting the arms, back or tail will apply exhaust damage. It also works just like other statuses do. Now, the newer hunters may be wondering, what does exhaust damage do? Well, when the exhaust threshold has been met and triggered, the monster will enter its tired state. You know, where the monster starts drooling, moves slower, and even starts falling over itself. It's like a baby, or an old person, or apparently even the previous president. It's something people don't really think about much. But I gotta say, it's
Mondo cool!
That's right, boys. Mondo cool.
One thing I didn't realize, but found out after seeing Gaijin Hunter's video on the topic about 8 years ago, cutting a monster's tail, knocking out of the air, and normal flinching are 3 other ways to apply exhaust. But I'll leave it up to Gaijin Hunter's video to explain the values on it. Go check out his video down in the description below. In a team setting, monsters slowing down and falling over themselves leads to opportunities to dish out extra damage, or even have a break in the hunt. Monsters who are exhausted also last longer in traps, and when knocked down, stay down for longer. In a way, exhaust damage is a secret offensive supportive mechanism added into the game. It's actually pretty amazing, and plays into what hunting horn is as a weapon. Also note, hammer has the same blunt properties, so it also works into this. But it's important to understand that hammer has a higher stun value, while hunting horn has a higher exhaust value. One last thing you need to know about exhaust and the tired state is it's not the only way it's built up. For every move a monster makes, they build up their exhaust meter. So as the hunt goes on, the monster will eventually reach their limit, even if you're not additive to that. And in the same turn, if a monster eats or is not active, the exhaust will recover. Now, while writing the script, I realized I don't actually know enough about how applying exhaust damage affects the tired state. But it's something I wanted to find out, turning this analysis video into an investigation video. So, I looked online for information on the matter. Sadly, there isn't much out there. Although, there was a post from Gaijin Hunter that gave values of monsters' thresholds for exhaust damage in Monster Hunter for you. He also had a video on this topic with other informational goods. So from this, we see 400 600 for low rank, 600 to 800 for high, and 800 to 1000 for G. This was great, although it wasn't for GU, but it was the closest game to GU as you can get. Although I was a bit confused when I compared this to the GU app, the values missed out high rank. Let's take Arzo's for example. The initial set to 100, increasing at 80 each time exhausted, a max of when it applies to 420. Not only did it only have one value, it also suggested that the exhaust damage is additive, which is what I based my analysis on, while Gaijin Hunter said it's reductive. Once the number reaches 0, exhaust will trigger. Which way is the right way? I don't know. But overall, it doesn't really matter. Firstly, it's kind of semantics. Adding and subtracting doesn't really matter as long as the calculations line up. Secondly, the GU app may not have ranking differences just based on how the app is built and how the data is presented. Kai Reniko, if that's how you pronounce it, also displayed the same figures as the GU app. But we can test both things out by going on a hunt and seeing how things pan out. Gaijin said in his video that the large hunting horn X and A double swing does 75 exhaust damage, 20 for the first and 55 for the second in Monster Hunter 4U. From now on, I'm going to assume it's a similar values, but there's no way for us to confirm or deconfirm that. It's a super old video, but it's still useful, so I recommend checking it out. It'll be in the description of this video. So, we'll be continuing by using the Great Macau to test out two things. Firstly, if rank changes how monsters are exhaust, given the exhaust values and so on, and B, how effective is applying exhaust on a monster rather than just waiting for it to get tired by using its moves. So yeah, let's get started. So, I fought Great Macau about 4 different times, letting him attack me for a couple minutes, and the times ranged on the times it actually got him to get exhaust, starting with around 7 minutes 41 seconds, 6 minutes 59 seconds, 4 minutes 50 seconds, which surprised me. It was actually really fast for him to get exhausted that time, all the way to 8 minutes and about 2 seconds, given a mean time of about 6 minutes 53 seconds on average is when the Great Macau fighting tired out in low rank. Now bear in mind, this is only 4 samples of data. Normally, if you want to do an actual good mean analysis, you're going to have to do it over a large data pool, but spending a lot of time on this would kind of be crazy, but I'm quite satisfied with our results so far. So it seems like there's a range of when monsters can get exhausted. Obviously, it depends what moves they're using, how active they're attacking. They could be more passive sometimes, so we have to all bear that in mind. But the key part of this analysis isn't how long it takes them to get exhausted when they're hitting, it's the comparison between them just using moves to get exhausted and us adding to it to exhaust them. So let's show some stats on that. So I did 2 quests, one in low rank and one in high rank fighting the Great Macau. The low rank one, surprisingly, only took like 1 minute and 35 seconds for him to get exhausted. That was crazy. It was so fast. I did not expect that. They're going into the high rank, it took about 3 minutes. Now, obviously, like we were saying, it could vary slightly on how often it actually took to exhaust these monsters, and also how often I hit in the head. And given its high rank, it's going to be harder to flinch since I was using a low rank weapon. But still, you can see the comparisons from me adding to it and from him just using the moves himself. They're so large that I am comfortable to say there's a considerable difference that adding to the exhaust damage of a monster for them to be exhausted than just leaving them to their own devices. Exhaust damage is actually stronger than I thought. Now, you may be wondering, Nova, why are you showcasing Monster and GU here and not the newer games like World and Rise? And the answer to that is just the game that I've the most experience with Hunting Horn in, and the game that spurred up this idea. I could have done it in Rise, but the gameplay of the Hunting Horn changed vastly in that game. I don't think it would be the best place to talk about this subject. And I also could have done it in World, but I haven't played enough of World in the past 3 years to really give a good combat analysis. And recently, I've only just started playing Iceborne, as some of my long-lasting subs really wanted me to experience that game, which I've been doing on stream. So if you want to watch my first experiences of playing Iceborne, come join the streams. I'd appreciate the support, and it normally happens on weekends, so yeah, come join us. And we can get into why I haven't completed it for another day. But for now, let's focus on the Hunting Horn and exhaust damage. So, we pointed out the key features of the Hunting Horn: stunning, exhaust, and playing the sax like a jazz king. And you may be thinking, Nova, well, what's the point of all this preamble? Well, my fellow hunter friend, my main point is about exhaustion. Elder dragons cannot be exhausted. As you lead into endgame of any Monster Hunter, many of the monsters you'll be dealing with will be elder dragons, the biggest and baddest around, which for the most part can all be stunned, but they cannot get tired, thus exhaust damage does not build on them. Yet, it does make sense that these monsters, the terror of the world, active hazards to everything in their wake, should be immune to such a thing as exhaustion. But then again, this is a mechanic that Hunting Horn excels at. Yet, as soon as you get to the harder parts of the game, it's no longer relevant. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying elder dragons should be able to get exhausted. It's just interesting to me that the benefits of the blunt weapon, Hunting Horn specifically, is no longer a factor when it gets to the end of the game. Kinda reminds me of Lugia powers in One Piece. Also, it's an interesting fact I don't see people talk about. Maybe it's because some people don't know about it, or maybe there's just more important things for them to think about in the game. I'm not actually sure what Capcom should do about it. I've always found exhaust damage to be an interesting idea in Monster Hunter. The idea that you're supporting your teams by hitting the monster either on its head to do KO or on its body to slow it down. Now that's cool stuff. But to be honest, Elder Dragons weren't mainly on my mind when I came up with this topic. It's actually another endgame mechanic of GU, Hyper Monsters. You see, Hyper Monsters are amped up monsters just like Tempered, Frenzied or Afflicted. But Hyper Monsters are quite unique. They don't just get a straight power or speed buff. It depends on the monster and certain conditions. I've actually already talked about Hyper Monsters before, but let's go over it again since it's been a while. There are 2 large glowing red spots on a Hyper Monster. You can't really miss it. By hitting these spots, it charges up your art gauges faster, although at the same time, if the monster uses an attack with the same part of the body, the spot will flash and the attack becomes exacerbated. But the way this works isn't the same way for every monster. Let's take Nagakuga for example. He becomes quicker, and into the idea he's a fast moving yet deadly stalker. But for some of his more deadly moves, they may be delayed. Or Glavenus on the other hand, who takes extra long to charge up his version of the Round Force. And then there are monsters with projectiles like Zenoga. If he has a spark on his back, you better watch out for the flying balls of lightning, truly deadly. But for real, I just love it. Definitely examples like Glavenus, he delays his attack making it more difficult to evade. And if you get hit, god damn, you better hope you have Moxie. This isn't your normal just do more damage thing Capcom and many other game developers do. This small aspect adds a lot to how you approach your hunts. They do more damage, but with style and purpose. There's a risk and reward here. You have to deal with more incredible and deadly moves, yet your arts charge faster by hitting them appropriately, thus able to use your strongest moves back more often. And similar to Elder Dragons, Hyper Monsters cannot be exhausted. Almost every endgame GU quest, apart from Deviants, are either Hyper Monsters or Elder Dragons, meaning in the endgame, the mechanic of exhaustion is basically left behind. And this isn't just isolated to Monster Hunter GU. It runs across pretty much every game in the series. It's the reason I don't use Hunting Horn that much in GU endgame. Exhausting monsters has always been a cool thing to me. Definitely when playing alone, I'm buffing only myself, although I do have my trusted Palicos at my side. So going forward into Wilds, I would like them to bring the focus to exhaust damage. I get they won't allow elders to get exhausted, and I'm fine with that, but I still lack an improvement to how it works overall against other monsters, to give the extra supportive push to Hunting Horn and Hammer. And for that, I propose this one change. Make it harder for monsters to get tired, pushing exhaust damage as a way to weaken them. I think this will add a highlight to the mechanic, and also make it more interesting when it comes to party comps in the game. So, what do you guys think about exhaust damage and the secret of Hunting Horn when it comes to hunting in endgame? Let me know what you think down below. I want to hear from you guys. Like the video, subscribe if you're interested. Yeah, let me know what you think. If you like the video, if you don't like it, let me know. I'm going to be streaming also this weekend on Saturday. I'm going to be streaming some Iceborne. So yeah, hope to see you there. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.